Definitely document to document. Whether it's keeping a schedule for your project and documenting the tasks that you're completing, or keeping a tracker of the life cycle of your contracts. Whatever it is, spend that little bit of extra time to document the work that you're doing, the completion of these tasks, because in the end, that is going to save you so much effort and time, money. It's all going to be a huge savings, and savings of frustration, I would say.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups and 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, and we're always here to help. Now, today we have another great expert episode, and where we'll having Angela Thurman on. And as a quick introduction to a little bit about what we'll be talking about, it's a lot to do with management. Now, management can mean a lot of things, so it's going to be more about contracts related to supplier management and contract life cycles and dealing with right-of-ways and supply chain management and flow charts and cheat sheets for contracts and probably or several other things. But with that much as a brief introduction of what we're going to be talking about, welcome on to the podcast, Angela.
Well, thank you, Devin. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I gave just a brief introduction as to some of the things we'll be talking about. But before we dive into the topic at hand, maybe if you can just take a couple minutes and introduce yourself a bit to the audience and let them know why you're an expert on the episode or on the area.
Great. Thank you. So I am the principal managing director for Thurman Co. I am a sort of a boutique project management consulting firm in Houston. And I am a certified project management professional with about 30 years of project management experience, primarily in aerospace and telecommunications. So I had the luxury of being trained in project management early in my career at NASA by Dr. Harold Kirschner, who is recognized in the community as probably the godfather of modern project management theory. He literally wrote the book, and I have that book on my shelf. So very, very lucky to be trained by Dr. Kirschner and then to apply those skills to project management in the space station program way back in my career. And then since then, I've continued to work in technical program management in telecommunications and in aerospace, most recently 10 years for a major US aerospace company, dealing in supply chain issues, risk assessment, and I did apply a lot of that to contract management, and risk assessment, and then of course the technical skills, as I am a degreed engineer.
So now, no, and I think that's a great background. And with that, as much as an introduction, let's dive into the topic at hand. So one question I would assume people will probably have is, why do I need project management? Why do I need contract management? Hey, one thing is I manage projects just fine. And if I have a contract, we review it and we sign it, and that's the end of it, right? So kind of give people an idea as to what they should be thinking about, what they should be looking about, and to a degree, why they should care about this area of their business to make sure that it's done right.
Sure. So, projects are defined as a temporal event. They have a start and a finish date. In aerospace and in telecom, however, those events can last a very long time, 20, 30, 40 years. And so for both the project and the contract, you're looking at something that can last for an entire career, and oftentimes may be handed off from one person to another person. It's unlikely that one project manager or one product manager is going to be responsible for that project for the entire time. So you're going to want to have someone who has a good, strong background in project management or contract management, so that you are assured of having all of the documentation captured, archived, organized, and easily accessible for the entire team as it gets passed along from one person to the next as roles change in the project team. That would be one reason. And then project management is not an easy thing if you're going to do it well. And that's why we have a very robust examination to become a certified project management professional. In order to become a PMP, you have to show a lengthy history of project management a skill, and then you have to sit for a very difficult exam that most people study for months. And so it's not something that you just decide, oh, I'm going to be a project manager, and then voila, you are. So yeah, it's a rigorous training.
Now, let me kind of follow up with one question, because a lot of our audience is going to be startups, small businesses, people just getting into it. They may not be able to go through all of the training. They may not have have the bandwidth to hire someone at this point, and definitely understand that as they grow and as they get bigger, it's a great area that they should be, they should be looking into. But if you're to say, okay, I don't like projects are hard to manage. I don't always do a good job, or I don't keep on top of things, or I don't, know how to go about doing this because I don't have that formal training. What are the best ways to, aside from hiring someone that's awesome and trained and knows what they're doing, if you're at an earlier stage on, what are some of the things that you should be looking about or thinking about, or research you should be looking into, or how do you get going with understanding how to, at least at a minimalistic level, pursue project management?
So there are some very good courses that are available for free that you can train. LinkedIn Learning offers some really good courses. So and routinely they make these available to the public. Bonnie Biafor is highly recognized and recommended as a project management trainer. I would also recommend that you get connected with your local Project Management Institute, or PMI chapter, and most chapters will have a list of people that are willing to do a certain amount of pro bono work, because every PMP member has a set number of hours of professional development that we continue to work on throughout our career. And some of that is in giving back to the community. So maybe you can get a PMI member who is a PMP to help with a small project, or to help you set up some templates, or there are templates available for free from PMI or other resources. Microsoft has an excellent software tool just called Microsoft Project. It is rather complicated if you're not a project management professional, but if you dedicate yourself to learning the tool, you can definitely make your way, and that is one good resource I would recommend. There are
Awesome.
lots of other tools available as well.
No, I think that sounds great, and definitely is always good to have those tools, to have a
Yes,
place to start as you're learning. Now,
yes.
shifting gears just a bit, and it kind of goes along with project management, but there's
Mhm.
also what people maybe at least vaguely familiar with, which is supply chain management, or those type of things where they're saying, okay, I have to not, if you're in a business where you're using third parties, you're using vendors, you're having suppliers and that type of thing, you're not only having to, and it can be whether it's a huge business and you have a whole bunch of suppliers or you have a couple of suppliers, but you're,
Mhm.
having to manage that supply chain. And, that's where, as you get into a lot of COVID, you're seeing that's had a major impact on supply chains, right? In the sense that
Yes.
you're seeing everything from, I was going into, and as a complete aside, but was going into having my bike fixed the other day and went
Mhm.
into a local bike shop, and they do an awesome job. And I was talking with about them as they're doing a bit of tune up and some work on the bike, and asking them how the business is going. They say, well, the services side is going great. We have, a lot of people that are doing biking and needing or wanting things fixed up and done. On the sales side, we can't keep our bikes in, even as us as vendors, we ordered something, it's probably 2 or 2.5 years out before we're going to get it because the supply chain is so disrupted. So,
Mhm.
that was certainly a difficult thing, that even if it's not, especially if it's COVID, but even if it's not in a COVID time period where you're having to manage your supply chain and make sure that you have the resources you need to run your business. So with that as a backdrop, if you're looking at using other vendors, you do have a supply chain, you're not just purely a service-based business, what are some of the things, how should you go about managing your supply chain? What should you be talking or thinking about? What contracts should you be thinking about if you're reviewing it? And kind of give us a bit of an overview or a summary of what people should be looking at.
Okay. So supply chain assessment it's all about, and supply chain management is all about risk assessment. So you have to consider your business model, and your appetite for risk. So some companies and some managers may be more risk averse than others. And so if you are a very risk averse company, then you're going to want to have redundancy in your supply chain as much as possible. That may not always be possible. So you're going to look for things and some of it will depend on your customers and what the technical requirements and flow downs are, and what sort of quality requirements and certifications they may have flowed down. So in aerospace, there are lots and lots of regulatory requirements that are flowed down. In automotive, there's also lots of regulatory flow downs. Many industries, pharma, food, those are all highly regulated industries. I'm hard pressed to think of an industry that's not highly regulated today. But so those are some of the considerations. In your supply chain management, you're going to want to think about what is the system that you have in place, your ERP system, your MRP system that you have in place to manage your supply chain.
Now, for
And
those,
how
just jumping in, for those that aren't as familiar, ERP,
I'm
MRP, what do those stand for and what are they?
enterprise. Gosh, now you put me on the spot.
What you can just, even if you don't remember the acronym, what are
Yeah,
they, or what are they
they
looking
are
for?
they are the systems that the company has in place to manage inventory, production, purchase orders, deliveries, those sorts of things. So they may be from a company like SAP or Microsoft or Oracle, something like that. They would be a big, the big core of your financial reporting and inventory management, that sort of thing.
No, makes sense. So
Mhm.
now one additional kind of question or follow-up to that is, supply chains. A lot of people, if you're a startup small business, maybe this is your first foray into it,
Mhm.
you go everything for, you Google someone online, you ask for recommendations, you go to a Facebook
Uh-huh.
group, you go to an Alibaba and find someone that says that they can provide.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything that are red flags when you're looking for, whether it's reviewing contracts or setting up a supply chain, that you should be saying, hey, these are things that if it comes up, you should avoid? And or maybe on the opposite, if there are things that you're saying, hey, this is a good indication that it will be a good supplier, anything of that nature?
Oh, you want to be able to know, can I visit the supplier? Can I go conduct a site visit and view for myself the quality of the product that they produce? Can I see their production line, and can I evaluate for myself all of the areas of risk that are hot buttons for me? So if on-time delivery is a big hot button for me, can they show me a history of their on-time delivery for their customers, and can that somehow be validated?
Hmm.
Or if whether or not they have the appropriate certifications to produce a particular type of product is crucial. Do they have those certifications, and can I validate that? Those are the types of things that you would want to be able to vet for yourself. And there are lots of organizations that can help you with that information.
No, it definitely sounds like those are some good points. I mean, it sounds like a little bit, make sure they can check in. Don't just take their word for it. Check to make sure they can actually deliver what they've done. Have they done certifications? Can you actually go and see the work? Do they let you come on site? And those are things that they're saying, no, don't worry about it. We don't need to be certified. Or, oh, maybe we don't need you to come on site. We can send you pictures. If they're uncomfortable, then that sounds like those are a few red flags that you should be thinking about. Is okay, these ones may not be the best supply chain, and we may want to see if there are other options or better options to that.
Yes, if they won't tell you who their suppliers are, uh, um, counterfeit parts can be a huge issue. So you may need to be able to prove the origin of the parts throughout the entire supply chain. And so that might be something that you would want to investigate.
No, I think that's a great thing, especially when you're going foreign. And some countries are great and very strict. If you go to the EU, generally they're going to be better. But you go into some other countries, they may be making the part for the actual manufacturer, then they make it for, make a knockoff that you can't even distinguish it, but they don't have the rights or the license or authority to make those parts to sell them to you. And it can create a big issue, a legal issue for you as that becomes or comes about, or if it gets discovered. So I think that's another great point. Now,
Right.
one of the other things that we talked about, shifting gears just a little bit back to maybe the contracts issue, is another thing you mentioned is kind of to have, a flow chart of the contracts and kind of keep a table. Now, what is the reason? Because I could see, definitely if you're on a bigger scale and you're a huge company and, you have a lot of contracts and somebody leaves, you're going to want to keep that continuity, which definitely makes sense. But it seems like a lot of that is even applicable on a smaller scale, because even, if you're a startup or a small business, a lot of times hopefully you have a contract. Sometimes they don't even have one, but if they have a contract, oftentimes it gets lost or people don't know where it is or, what it says. And so kind of maybe walk people through a little bit, talk people through how they should be managing their contracts, how they should organize them, and what they should be kind of putting in that cheat sheet or that, spreadsheet, so to speak, that helps them to manage, if they're having multiple contracts.
Sure. So I definitely recommend something as simple as a spreadsheet to just maintain the life cycle management of your contract. Because if you do have a contract with a supplier who is for a program or a project that's going to last 10 years or more, and roles are going to change. Change is inevitable, and it's likely that you're going to have additional scope or some sort of changes requested by your customer. So maybe they've been ordering this box and it's always been black. But now they're going to order the box with a special designer brown version. And so now you've got this scope change that, in addition to the black that we're going to continue to order, we're now going to offer the box in a designer brown. So you need to have, number one, you need to have a part number for the brown box. You need to start ordering brown paint. So you've got to have an order to your supplier for brown paint. And you're going to have to modify your contract with your supplier to order brown paint. So your contract needs to have some sort of amendment or some sort of modification to start. You got to have a price for brown paint and purchase orders for brown paint now. So that needs to be reflected in your supplier contract with the paint supplier somehow. And so that you in your main contract cheat sheet, whatever your cheat sheet is, just have some sort of update that says, amendment 1, we're now going to order brown paint, and it's because the customer wants to offer designer brown boxes. And that, maybe that's all you need, not a whole lot more. But if ever someone, came on new to the team, they would understand, oh, well, that's what that amendment's for. And it could be something as simple as that. Now, lots of times it's much more complicated. That's a very simple example, but that gives you a description of why you might want something like this.
No, and I think that's a great example because, I'd almost, both on the more complex, hey, why did they change this? What is this even referring to? I think that is good to be captured because everybody always thinks, oh, we'll remember. And sometimes you don't remember yourself, but more even so, you may change positions, people come and go, their side come and goes. And, so it can be difficult to remember why you made the modifications. Now I'll ask, and I know the answer is an attorney, but I'll keep my answer at bay for a minute, which is, give the simple example, we want to have a change in paint color or the box color or the construction or something simple. Is that something, if you're modifying the agreement, that you need to go to an attorney every time and that you should, because that's the fear people have is, oh, it's a minor tweak or modification. We don't need to adjust the agreement. It'll be fine. Everybody will remember. I'm sure they'll pay for it. And we're probably already covered under the agreement anyway. And so let's not worry about it and we'll just continue on. Is that I have my biased opinion, but I'll ask you is that a good frame of mind? Should I just not worry about it if it's a minor tweak?
That is never a good idea. Just remembering and hoping that everybody will be fair and remember to pay is never a good idea. If there are any changes, the best solution is to document it. Just so you can have it in writing and you can have it to go back to in the future and say, oh, well, now we want blue. Well, here's how much it cost when we had brown. So blue probably is about the same. So, or maybe it's a little bit more, but you can have a point of reference. And yeah, never rely on the memory of anyone, especially if that person may leave the company.
No, I think that's, now that was going to be my biased answer as well. But I get it on the one hand that people are saying, oh, I don't want to have to go spend money on an attorney, and I don't want to have to redo it and have it re-signed or updated or anything else. So we're just not going to worry about it. So it is a natural human, tendency to just, if it's going to be a lot of work and you don't want to do it, then you'll just kind of pretend it's not there, push it aside. But I think that, one of the things is, if you're having a good system that's already tracking your contracts and you have it organized, whether it's your cheat sheet and your spreadsheet, and, have a document kind of repository, then it makes it easy to, hey, we'll just simply go in, make that if it is or a major modification, but even a minor modification to the agreement, and then we're going to be able to use that same document. We can have an attorney, if it's changing the color box from black to blue, or something of that nature, you can probably change out that one word without having to have an attorney sign it or review it. But even if you don't, if you have the repository, if you have a good description what it is, it reduces your cost quite a bit, because now you're not having the attorney review everything. It's just that narrow part. So I think that that's definitely yet another motivation and reason why people would want to track what they're doing, manage the contracts, and then otherwise have them in good order, because it saves a lot of headache as things evolve, which for every business that evolves over time, people come and go, people leave, people forget things, people conveniently forget things when it's not favorable to them anymore. And it's much easier to keep track of that. And one parting thought on that is, I wouldn't leave it to people's memories, and I also wouldn't leave it to an email. An email is not the same thing as a contract. It's better than nothing, I guess, if you're not going to get something in writing, but you're definitely going to want to, anything that's not in writing and agreed to, people, it does, for legal purposes, really doesn't count. So now we've covered a few things. Oh, go ahead.
I could, if you're thinking about the costs involved to make that modification, yes, there will be some time spent on that. But think about the cost you're avoiding if you don't do it. And then 2 years later, someone refuses to pay a bill. And they're like, well, why did this shipment of 20 boxes cost, $15 extra? And that's more than we've ever paid before. And we're not going to pay this invoice now. And someone is having to chase down, and they spend a week trying to find out why these 20 boxes cost $15 more, and all the time that would be invested to recover the information that, if you had just taken the time to make that modification, all of that effort could have been avoided.
No, I think that's definitely, and that's almost best case scenario, in the sense that it may just take you some time saved to chase down why it is, and then people would say, oh yeah, well, I remember. Worst case scenario is say, no, we never agreed to that, we didn't understand that, and now you're stuck trying to either force them to pay what the cost that you just ate in order to make the change, or you're having to go to court, or you're having to do something that's going to affect the business. So I think that in all fronts, it saves time on the front end, that you're able to easily recall it, and it also saves you some legal hassles potentially down the road.
It supports the relationship.
Exactly. No, I agree. It makes your relationship better, because now it's not people on their side, they're not feeling like the tab is just running up, or they don't remember why. And on your side, it makes it so you're saying, hey, we agreed to this, remember? And then they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's fair, we did agree to it. So I totally agree. Well, we have covered several topics, and I'm sure we could talk a lot longer on them. But as we were wrapping towards the end of the podcast, I always like to ask one question at the end of expert episodes, because, we talk about a lot of things, everything from contract management, supply chain, project management, contracts, all of those different things. And, you're going to listen to this and you'll say, oh, there's a lot of things I should be doing that I probably need to be, but I don't know where to start, and I can't do them all today, so to speak. So talking to that, if there's one takeaway, if people can only get started on one thing today that would make an improvement or that have the most impact, what would that one thing be?
Oh, definitely document. Whether it's, keeping a schedule for your project and documenting the tasks that you're completing, or keeping a tracker of the life cycle of your contracts. Whatever it is, spend that little bit of extra time to document the work that you're doing, the completion of these tasks. because in the end, that is going to save you so much effort and time, money. It's all going to be a huge savings, and savings of frustration, I would say. So definitely take that extra moment, invest that extra half hour to just make sure that that you've documented the work that you're doing, all the good that you're doing, and make the most of it. And if you need a project manager to do that, then either become one, hire one, find one, but it's really not something that is beyond the capabilities of the average person.
Yeah, I think that is a great piece of advice. It seems simple on this, but yet every time people get busy and then you don't do it, and it is definitely worthwhile, the investment. I think that's a great takeaway, is to, if you could just get started on one thing, at least get a system in place, document it, and keep track of things, because it saves you a lot of time and headache and potentially legal issues in the future. So
yes.
So with that, as we wrap up the podcast, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to pick your brain, they want to get more information, they want to, be an investor in a great business you're going to start, or they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
My website is www.thurmanco.com. So THURMANCO.com.
All right. Well, I definitely encourage everybody to reach out, contact you, find out more, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, as we wrap up, thank you again, Angela, for coming on the podcast. Now, for all of you that are listeners, if you have your own journey to tell or your own expertise to share, feel free to go to inventiveguest.com and apply to be on the show. 2 more things as listeners. 1, make sure to click subscribe in your podcast player so you know when all of our awesome episodes come out. And 2, leave us a review so everyone else can find out about all of our awesome episodes. Last but not least, if you ever need help with patents, trademarks, or anything else with your business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. Thanks again, Angela, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you.